Yes, I suppose so. I mean, I'd always wanted to be part of one of the national companies. My first theatre-going experiences on my own as a teenager were going to the Old Vic when Olivier was running the National Theatre Company there, and you could get in incredibly cheaply. And I was introduced to the mystery of how you got these tickets by a friend of my sister's, and so I used to go often on my own, and then later with friends. So I think my view of what I wanted to do was to be part of a big theatre company like that. So joining the RSC in the first place seemed like a big break to me, and then I had a sort of medium fastish ascent within the company, I suppose. Yeah.
What, from spear carrier to?
Well, I never know. I turned down spear carrying, actually. Yes, but no, I played some sort of nice, good, smallish roles in my first season there, and then Sheila Hancock was in the company. She was setting up one of the RSC's small-scale tours with John Caird, and they were doing Romeo and Juliet, Midsummer Night's Dream, and I was cast as Mercutio and as Oberon and Theseus, which is kind of like the best parts if you're a bloke.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was it like on stage performing those parts?
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It was a very, very happy time. And we toured around fitting up an auditorium inside community schools and town halls. And so, again, it sort of harked back to my first experiences with Monsters Regiment, only on a much, much bigger scale. I mean, they had 2 huge Pantechnicon trucks. And there were various places we played where it just had an incredibly kind of revitalising effect on this particular school. I can't remember quite where it was now, somewhere in Yorkshire, where when we were leaving, there were some teachers there crying.
Wow.
And we said, what's the matter? And they'd been so welcoming, and there was nowhere to eat or drink after. So they made sure that some little club stayed open, especially for us. It was very, very sweet what they did. And they said, you just don't know what this has done for the school. And we had to battle with the council and to get funding to be able to put this on, to be able to pay for you to be here this week. And we recouped everything, and it's been such a success, and the school is just buzzing with it. And that's the most, that's just the most wonderful thing if you get that kind of feedback from an audience.
What music? We'll go with your next choice. Why not?
Oh, this is, this would be well known. This is Joni Mitchell's A Case of You. But I heard this, and it was a song I knew very well. I think someone had introduced me to her earliest version of it at university. But I was travelling back. Oh, one of the tragedies that happened was that we had such a disgusting, beaten-up old car, and then the radio broke, and we kept thinking, well, we'll get a new car. And we didn't for about 5 or 6 years. So I was suddenly without that time of driving around and listening to the radio. But for this trip to my sister's in Lincoln, I hired a car which had a radio. We have a new car now, which does have a radio. Very recent purchase, and it's wonderful to be reacquainted with the radio in the car. But on a trip back from Lincoln to London, I heard this version of A Case of You, which is orchestral. And I love the way that it completely reveals the song afresh and gives it incredibly kind of tragic dimensions, I think, really, because it becomes automatically about aging and growing old, whereas in her first version there's a sort of the lightness of youth is that although this relationship has passed and has been in many ways awful, there'll be other relationships to come, whereas this feels just tragic.
Just before our love got lost, you said, I am as constant as a northern star. And I said, constantly in the darkness, where's that at? If you want me, I'll be in the bar. On the back of a cartoon coaster.
I could listen to that on repeat.
Yes.
A Case of You, Joni Mitchell, chosen by my guest, Roger Allam.
Beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely lovely. We were talking about the RSC before the music. We have to talk about Les Mis
yes.
and Javert.
Yes.
You were brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I was telling you a little bit during the music, but it did change my life. I was there first night or second night, I think, as I can't remember, in my early teens.
The really long version.
The really long version, but it was just mesmeric.
Yeah.
Was it a gamble for you to take on something like that?
Well, as I said earlier, I'd always sung, and I'd had these lessons with John Hargreaves at the English National Opera. Sometimes I used to come out of his little room and people were rehearsing on stage, and I used to sit in darkness up there in the upper circle somewhere. One time I came out and Nureyev was rehearsing, so I sat in secret and watched him. It was wonderful. Anyway, so and when I was at university, John Caird was an assistant or an associate director at Contact Theatre, and so I knew John when I was at university, and he was now a director at the RSC. He knew I could sing because I did various singing roles there. Now, they also wanted, you know, they were keen to get people who were really part of the RSC in it, but there weren't enough singers, you know, and in the end, I think only 3 of us, me, Alan Armstrong and Sue Jane Tanner, were actually in the RSC company, and everyone else was brought in from outside the company. So, you know, I think that was very much in my favour. I did a ludicrous audition, really, because I didn't know, I'd never auditioned for a musical. I didn't know anything. I didn't know any of the songs that you should sing at an audition for a musical. I think I did the baritone solo from unaccompanied solo from Walton's Belshazzar's Feast.
Right. That's brilliant.
And
in leg warmers, I hope.
and something of Macheath's from Thrupney Opera.
Brilliant.
And I think Trevor Nunn said, "Don't you know anything more popular than that?" I just said, "No, I don't."
But it was such an amazing cast and also an amazing piece of music. Did you know once you'd heard the music and seen the score and everything that this was a musical that would last forever? No idea at all. I didn't think it would run particularly. Really?
No, not like it has. Who can second guess
yeah, sure,
that?
Of course.
You know, once we went into the West End, I thought, well, this would certainly be good for a year or two. You know, Cameron, of course, had 2 extreme pieces of good fortune that he probably organised because he's such a great showman, which was Princess Di came to see it at the Barbican, which was a great big piece of publicity, you know, massive.
Yeah.
And then she came to see it again in the West End, bringing Prince Charles. Now, I mean, that just...
huge endorsement.
Yes. You know, it was in all the papers. It was sort of everywhere. And I thought that's what being in a West End show was like, that when you looked up front, every seat was taken all the time.
and people instantly jump up on their feet at the end.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
Great part for you as well.
It's a wonderful. Yes, it's a wonderful sing. It's not too onerous because, I mean, Valjean is a really hard part, I think. And Colm Wilkinson was so fantastic.
Yeah, he was.
I suddenly thought, when I heard him sing Bring Him Home for the first time, I suddenly thought, yes, I've just taken my voice for granted, really. I've had these singing lessons. By then they were some time in the past, and he really, really worked and had that great kind of rock voice and a great falsetto voice, so he could go up so high. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people have sung that piece in the years since, but no one's really sung it better than him.
I don't think so, no. I don't think so. Not that I've heard. No.
Well, as I say, I was a huge fan, and I was one of those people that jumped up on their feet, and I think I saw it 5 times as a kid.
Gosh.
Yeah, that's the only reason you're here. I've been stalking you for years.
I've only ever seen it once.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, because, you know, I mean...
How many performances did he do?
Well, I must have done it. I did it for just under a year.
Right.
8 times a week. Did for my knees. Javert's death, of course.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And I went, I think the 20th anniversary performance, me and my great friend Philip Quast, who's probably the best sung Javert. Wonderful voice.
Yeah, he has got a wonderful voice.
We went to see it together. And that was the first time I'd seen it from beginning to end.
Who was playing Javert?
Oh, don't do that to me. I'm terrible.
No,
with
but I just
names,
imagine.
can't
Can you imagine
remember.
that poor Javert turning up for work thinking, I feel a bit rough tonight, and they say, well, who's in? Oh, it's only Philip Quast and Roger Allam. You'd be like, oh no.
And it was odd seeing it because, of course, it was a long time afterwards, and I mean, it had been kept in very, very good shape. Wonderful young cast, hugely appreciative audience. You know, it's a phenomenon.
Yeah,
it really is.
And performed in so many different languages around the world.
Yes, yes.
Well, we definitely missed you in the film. I'm not afraid to say it. I've seen the Les Mis film, liked bits of it, but I think you should have played Javert. Anyway, moving on. After Les Mis, after your year, huge success on stage from then on, really. A huge variety of work as well. And more musicals, one of them, which I'd love to play for you next, and we'll talk about it afterwards. This is another of my favourite moments from musicals, if you like.
You gonna cave in? You're gonna rewrite the script just to stay on the good side of Buddy? Do it just for him? I wouldn't have believed it.
You wouldn't have believed it. Is that what you said? You wouldn't have believed it? You? You are some gumshoe, you just don't think well. Get this dumb gumshoe, you come from my inkwell. Is your mouth low?
One of my favourite musicals, City of Angels, You're Nothing Without Me. The voice of, a person who's not that far away, actually. Was that fun to do?
Oh, yes. Goodness me. I mean, if anyone had told me that I'd be able to give a certain amount of homage to the sort of singing style of Sinatra, say, with the big band jazz arrangements, with the dialogue of Raymond Chandler, Humphrey Bogart, I wouldn't have believed them. It was my research was going home, rereading my favourite Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler books, listening to some fantastic singing with those kind of arrangements. Those arrangements were Billy Byers, absolutely wonderful, to Cy Coleman's music.
Great music.
Yes, wonderful music. It was just a joy. But, very different experience to Les Mis, because after we opened, looking out, it wasn't full at all.
What does that feel like?
That was really disappointing, because I never thought it would run like Les Mis, but I thought there was a good 2 years in it, you know.
And it was a big success in the States, wasn't it?
It was a surprise success in the States. On Broadway, you get the great review from the New York Times. I'm not sure whether that's still the case now. Maybe it is, I don't know. But in those days, if you did, that was it. People came and bought tickets. That's never happened over here. People who go to musicals don't read reviews in the same kind of way. And also, over here, Cameron Mackintosh, Andrew Lloyd Webber had got into this way of really promoting and pre-selling a show, so that when you open the show, there's a very, very healthy advance at the box office, which can get you through that first, 6 months, a year, maybe. And our producers were American, and they assumed that we would get great reviews, and which we did, and that therefore we would have full houses, which we didn't.
It was a brilliant musical.
I loved doing it, yes. We were going to close early, and then there was a bit of a reprieve when it was announced, and we had queues around the block, and absolutely wonderful. But we still had to close early, yeah. But it was a great, great pleasure to do.
It seems to me that you're not one of those actors that when you're doing something and it's a huge success and you're safe, you just sit there for years on end. You'd much rather challenge yourself. So if you're in a musical, the next thing we see you in is some straight play, and you seem to try to mix it around.
I mean, I've always liked the variety of it. Right from starting in Monsters Regiment, I played instruments in the band, did a bit of stand-up comedy, did this, that, and the other, and I've always liked that aspect of actually right back to seeing that book. There's just the different faces. I
want to be all of them.
Yes, that's always appealed to me.
You've done everything from Shakespeare to Panto.
Yes. I've done 2 pantos, actually, yes. And my first one was at Glasgow Sits. And I loved both of them.
Second one with?
With Sir Ian. We ran a very good dressing room.
Oh, God, I bet it was amazing. Because he's fantastic. He doesn't really care. He just says what he feels, doesn't he?
Yes, he does. And